So we are down in the garden this morning and we are going to be harvesting some basil. Honestly, it's a little warmer than I would like it to be. I had to run to town first thing this morning, but ideally what you would like is to harvest your basil early in the morning when it's still cool and it hasn't absorbed any heat, but it isn't super warm yet. So we are going to go ahead and get some of this clipped off and then get it into the house and make some pesto. And you always want to snip. See where these two leaves are coming out right here? You always want to snip the stem that's coming right above that, because what will happen is these will then take off and form new branches. And basil is pretty forgiving. It just keeps bushing and bushing. Some of these got sunburnt the other day. You can kind of see that on the leaf. And my plants aren't very big yet. They're just getting going. But they're kind of one of those plants, the more you trim, the more they bush. Now with basil, I like to bring it into the house and then just give it a little rinse. Really isn't dirty, but just to get any field dirt that might have blown on it. And then I will give it all its own little personal ride in the salad center. So then I just lay a towel down and I put the basil out on it. And you can let it air dry for a little while, or you can just kind of blot it a little bit with a paper towel. All right, so the first thing we need to do is just take the leaves off the basil, and I literally just pinch them off or pull them off. And by the time I'm done, I finally got my nails semi-unstained, and they will probably be nice and stained again. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep picking off the leaves. And then as I go, I do press down because you firmly pack it. So I'm going to work on that and I'll come back as soon as I have that done. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, I have 2 cups in here, but it's loose. And I want you to see once I pack it down, it goes down to almost a cup. So I have the rest of this over here that I will get put in there. To make our 2 cups. So I'm setting some of this basil aside because tomorrow night for dinner we are going to have a chicken salad that also has walnuts, craisins, feta cheese, and basil in it. And maybe instead of craisins I'll do fresh strawberries since I have those, but it is just delicious. It's one of my most favorite summertime salads to eat. But I'm just going to, the leaves are dry, so I'm just going to wrap them up in a paper towel. I'm going to stick them back into the Ziploc bag that I had the basil in earlier. And I will just store this in the refrigerator. All right, and in this recipe, it also calls for 3 tablespoons of ground pine nuts. I've changed that to walnuts because I love the flavor of walnuts, and pine nuts are incredibly expensive. So I have one of these cute little old-fashioned grinders. I just think these old grinders are so cute. I remember growing up and my mom would let me turn the grinder. I do have a food processor. You definitely could stick these in the food processor if you would like. I actually am going to be pulling mine out here in a minute as we start putting the pesto together. just kind of enjoy my little old-fashioned grinder. So I'm going to get these chopped up so I have about 3 tablespoons, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, I have my food processor out. My original old one that I had, the motor died. So I found this one at a garage sale, and the only downside to it is it doesn't have that little plastic insert that goes in here to push it down. So I just put a piece of foil over the top. I'm super fancy like that, so it doesn't bother me. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to put my basil in here. Get the lid on. And then I am going to get this whirled down into a paste. I mean, not like a fine paste, but oops. Sometimes the leaves get stuck up there. I'm just going to scrape down the sides, and I'm going to do this a couple more times. My processor's trying to walk across the counter. Okay, I'm going to scrape it down one more time. So next I need to add a 1/2 cup of olive oil. Okay, the family came in and got noisy, so I'm going to voice over this part. I am just putting a 1/2 cup of olive oil in, and then I am going to put the lid on, and I'm going to get this well incorporated before I put any of the other ingredients in. Now I'm going to give it a little scrape down. And now we're going to add the 3 tablespoons of walnuts. And then it calls for a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, or the powdered Parmesan cheese. I always go a little heavy on it, so it's more like 1/3 to 1/2. I really like the cheese. And then it doesn't call in my normal recipe for salt and pepper, but I really love the flavor that it adds. So I'm just sprinkling in some pink Himalayan sea salt and some ground black pepper just to taste. No exact measurements. And then I grew a whole bunch of garlic last year and canned it. It's super pretty, but it does mellow a little bit once you can it. So it calls for 3 minced cloves of garlic. And for the flavor wise, for me, that kind of equates to 3 heaping tablespoons of my canned garlic. And I always like to incorporate some of the juice as well when I put it in there. But it does still have a garlicky flavor. It's just not pungent. It's a little more mellow. So I'm going to get this all mixed together. And then I'm going to, as always, scrape the sides down because it never fully mixes together. And then I'm going to give it one more quick little whirl. And now for the secret ingredient. I don't know if it's so much of a secret, but one thing we love to put into our pesto is cream cheese. And the reason why is because it just makes such an awesome spread, and you can spread it on top of like chicken breasts and bake it in the oven. Of course, put it on crackers. You can put it in pastas, and you can even use it as a pizza sauce. So I'm just going to get this brick, and it is a room temperature softened brick of cream cheese, and I'm going to just get it put into the food processor. And I kind of have to break it up into a few chunks so it's easier for my processor to get it mixed in. I'm going to get it all whirled together. And again, as always, I'm going to have to scrape down the sides. And I do, in this process, have to actually get my spatula down in between the blades to try to lift up some of the more liquidy pesto that's still sitting on the bottom. And then it takes just a slight little bit more to get it all fully incorporated. And this is what it looks like with the cream cheese mixed in. And you'll notice when I get this onto my spatula how thick it is, and you can turn the spatula sideways and it doesn't fall off. So it makes a really good spread. Now this is a little Ziploc bag holder that I just got off of Amazon. And even though the newer bags they make with those little foldable bottoms, I don't trust them because it's always my luck. It falls over anyway and then it just goes everywhere. So I like it because it clamps each little side in and you can adjust the height. And I always just stick my hand down there to get the bag fully opened. And I am just going to put all of the pesto into this bag. Inevitably, I always get some on the lip of the bag. Never fails. So I'll just get that wiped off, get the bag taken back off. And then I'm going to show you, I bought these little homemade popsicle bags that go in the freezer. They have a little Ziploc at the top. And if you're just making pesto without the cream cheese, these are really awesome. You can just pour it right in there, zip it shut, put it in the freezer, and it kind of makes for an easy pour or easy measure out when you are getting your pesto. So here it is, all finished on a cracker with the cream cheese in it. And it is as good as it looks. And I decided to put it into 2 different bags just for portion sizes for when we take it out and use it. We put it on our hamburgers as well. So I'm going to put them into these freezer bags. And by the way, I did stick these in the freezer just in the regular sandwich bags and froze them overnight so they are solid frozen before I put them into the freezer bags. And I'll just get these vacuum sealed down. And then, of course, I always have to write what it is and the date. Although most of the time I am the one getting stuff out and making dinner. If I ever have to send someone to the freezer, if I don't have it written on there, sometimes they don't even know what it is. Sad, but it's true. So that's how you make this recipe, and hopefully you found it helpful. And if you did, we'd love it if you'd subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you next time.